You're listening to The Knowledge Spot, your number one resource for sharing information that promotes success, personal development, and happiness. I'm your host, Jared Cherry, and my goal is to shed a light on the strategies, mindsets, and routines that have led to each of my guests' individual success. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen, and I hope you enjoy what we have in store. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of The Knowledge Spot. Today I've got David Luong on with me, and he is the Senior Cinematic Artist number 2 of Blizzard Entertainment. And David, to start this off, can you explain exactly what the responsibilities of a Senior Cinematic Artist number 2 is?
Sure. So it's basically just kind of getting whatever the art director or director gives you and turning it into whatever their vision is. So I would do the back end things, lighting, compositing, rendering, matte painting. Those are the things that I would focus on. And that's what I would kind of help the director see his vision using those tools and those techniques.
Gotcha. And when you say the art director, visual arts is not my forte. I'm a musician myself. I was always a
Uh-huh.
terrible artist. So I'm trying to I'm trying to understand this a little more. So, let's say Blizzard says, or Chris Metzen says, this is the new lore coming out, and I want it to look like this, and that. Does the art director, so the guy that you're trying to work with, does he take Chris Metzen's idea, put his own spin on it, and then
Yeah.
you go through him?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, Chris would be the main story guy, right? He would be our overall our creative art director of the whole entire company, and he would get a story. He would talk to our cinematic director and art director at the same time and tell him what his vision is, and then they would take that as a cinematic department, our department. They would take that and put kind of like their own ideas and what they want to flesh out the story that Chris Messon gave them. So let's say like. He wanted a certain orc, here and there, fighting against maybe another elf. The director would actually flesh out that entire story and put it to storyboards, put it to an animatic, write the long form script of that, and then he would give that over to Chris Metzen, and Chris Metzen would kind of look at that and go over it, and he would approve it or give him kind of some feedback, some notes, and they would iterate on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And before we go any further, I gotta say, David, I'm so excited for this episode because I finally get to out myself as a nerd in this episode, as a video
Very
game
cool.
geek.
That's always good.
Yeah, we've had, mixed martial arts champions,
Yeah.
fashion experts. We've had a bunch of people, but I haven't once been able until this point to finally get a hold of someone who's part of the
Ah,
video game industry. So I'm so excited to be here because
very
for
cool.
listeners who don't know, I'm a huge video game nerd and I love World of Warcraft. And I want to ask you,
Awesome.
David. You work at Blizzard. You've got to be
Yes.
a video game nerd as well, right? Even though
Oh,
you're on the
yes.
art side.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. So I'm a huge gamer, and I basically got into Blizzard because I love games, and I work in the cinematics department because I also love movies and films. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I grew up playing first of all, I started playing Warcraft 2, was the first
uh,
Blizzard game I played. Yeah, back in 1994, and then just got into the expansion, and then afterwards got into StarCraft 2, 97, and just played a whole bunch of LAN games with my buddies back in high school. That was always fun doing overnighters, doing that, and then got a little bit into Diablo, but not too much of a Diablo fan. Then played Warcraft 3, and then of course WoW, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, for me, it's a huge part of me being a gamer, and combining my love for movies and joining the cinematics team in 2006 was a dream come true, and I've been there ever since.
that's awesome, man. That's exactly why I wanted you as a guest on the podcast because you're living the dream for a lot of artists
Oh
and video
yeah,
game nerds in general. And
yeah,
so I gotta ask then, it's 2006 when you get hired by Blizzard, correct?
yeah.
At that point, we've already seen Blizzard make some amazing cinematics, and the first
Oh
one that comes
yes.
to mind for whatever reason for me is StarCraft 1, the Terran campaign. I think it's when you just start it, and
Uh-huh. Cold
forgive me.
Fusion. Yeah.
Maybe this is the wrong one, but I'm
Oh,
thinking
okay.
the one where it's the two hillbilly Terran guys. They're in that jeep. They hit a
Oh, yep.
Zergling,
They had a Zergling. Yep.
and then the Hydralisk comes,
Hydras. Uh-huh.
and
That's a
that
cool one.
just sticks in my mind right away. And I'm going, it must be intimidating in some sense coming into that company in 2006 and you're working with, at the time and, still to this point, obviously, Blizzard is considered a master of cinematics and games rather.
Right, yeah. It was just a huge kind of like eye-opening experience coming in. I was just in awe of everything, just walking down the hallways and talking to my supervisors and these leads and these coworkers that I've been admiring for like 10 years or more, um, seeing their work on the screen on the DVDs and in the games that I've been playing, and then finally get to work with them as well and, create the next cinematic that's going to be very awesome, hopefully inspiring to other people. And it's just awesome. I mean, I have this huge admiration for my art director, the senior art director in the cinematics team. His name is Nick Carpenter, and he did a lot of the camera work for a lot of the cinematics back then. He directed a whole bunch of them, like the StarCraft cinematic that you mentioned. He also has a huge, huge love for film and movies, and also for games. And just listening to him talk is just awe-inspiring each time. So it's just lovely to be working at the company.
That's awesome. And I'm actually curious, is there any, as you join this all-star team, is there any specific piece of advice that, or, teachings that they gave you that stick to your mind still to this day?
It's just really just kind of making everything look as real as possible, but not just realism, but it's hyper-realism that we're looking for. There's this fantasy aspect, sci-fi element that we're looking for in every cinematic. And it's like this, slight glow that we have to each of our frames, just making every frame basically like a poster frame. So we would flip through everything and make sure like everything's perfect. All the pixels are like perfect. They're not popping or anything, and the colors are all there. The composition's great in each of the frames. You can stop at any moment in any of your cinematics and you can say like, whoa, you can actually print that up. So that's kind
Yeah.
of like what we strive for each of our cinematics. And it's a lot of work. But in the end, it really pays off for ourselves and for the fans, I think.
And I'm wondering then, I know you worked at two studios before Blizzard, and
Yes.
were there any, compared to Blizzard, what did these two studios do completely different?
So when I came into the visual effects industry, I started out at Luma Pictures, and they're based in Santa Monica. They were kind of like a smaller boutique studio. They had about 50 people. We worked on Underworld Evolution at the time, and that was my first studio job. So whatever they gave me, I didn't really care. I did it, and I worked long hours, and I didn't question it. But I found out later, there's things that you shouldn't do. As far as taking care of yourself and getting paid a certain amount and such things.
Especially as an artist, I must say.
Yeah, especially an artist. But I just graduated and I, just enamored about the whole entire thing about getting an industry. So it didn't really phase me as much. And, if I did that, if I did what I did now, it's just not, yeah, not
Right.
possible.
I
So,
gotcha. And I actually want to, so that's with Luma. What else with
Luma
the other
Pictures.
studio? Say again, sorry?
Oh, yeah, Luma Pictures.
With
Yeah.
Luma Pictures, and then with the second studio, what other differences you see there?
Yeah, the second studio is with Rhythm and Hues, and they are an Oscar-winning studio. They've been around for a long time, and they were one of the big five visual effects studios back in the day. It was Rhythm and Hues, Sony ImageWorks, Digital Domain, ILM, and there's another one that I'm forgetting. But Weta Workshop or Weta at New Zealand was also another huge one back in the day. So Rhythm and Hues was famous for their talking animal movies like Babe, which they won the Oscar
Right.
for, Garfield, Scooby Doo, a bunch of other things. So I came in as an apprentice, and I left Luma Pictures to look for better pastures and seeing how the industry is. You usually jump around from studio to studio to get more experience and network and talk to more people and absorb more knowledge.
Right.
Uh, so I came over to Rhythm and Hughes, and I was an apprentice of about 15 of us. Half of us didn't make the cut, but I luckily got through, and I got a full-time job compositing for Garfield 2. And kind of like the same thing happened at Luma Pictures, where they would pretty much give me anything, and I would take it. So I would stay long hours again, but I loved doing it. They were a big company. I think they were about 800 people compared to Luma Pictures 50. So the pool of knowledge there and the talent was way, way bigger.
Right.
Just getting to stay there and talk to people late nights and just kind of seeing how a big company would work, it was just really awesome too. So I stayed there until they ran out of projects. I worked on Night at the Museum, Superman Returns, and Garfield 2 at the time before they basically said, "Oh, we got to lay you off." but come back in March. So try to go on unemployment and hopefully we can call you back. Like, I got a lot of student loans to pay, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I couldn't do that, unfortunately. And I really love that company too. And they paid for your overtime dinner and your breakfasts and your lunches. But I think they kind of ran out of money and stopped doing that after I
Right.
left. But it was a great experience. I just loved working with everyone there. My supervisor really taught me how to, be very, very, to have the eye for this detail that you had to look into film. Everything had didn't have to be super sharp and super clear for all the 3D objects to combine into the live action. It was actually a little bit slightly blurry and a little bit imperfect, and adding the grain and the black levels adjustments and the color corrections would really bring them all together and have them mean to be like one environment. So that's what I took away at Rhythm and Hues, and yeah, it's just a great movie studio. I wish it was still around, but it went bankrupt right after Life of Pi.
Mm,
Uh, they won the Oscar for Life of Pi, actually.
that's ironic then.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, the whole visual effects industry was really just going the ways of outsourcing and being more international than being in Hollywood and LA. So, the incentives to do a movie or visual effects in London or Vancouver or New Zealand, Australia, was just too big for the producers to not
Right.
go for. So, yeah, Rhythm Hughes kind of went off, and now they're trying to restructure, and hopefully they'll come back and do something big later on.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I want to talk about something you mentioned that happened to you in both those studios, and it's something that I think parallels what I and lots of other artists go through. And when I say artists, I'm going to mean it in the broad term here, because like I said
Uh-huh.
earlier, I'm a musician,
Right. Yeah.
and I had a part in my life where someone offered me a gig, I was going to play it for free. I was going to play it if you gave me a hamburger, if you gave
Oh
me
yeah.
french fries, if you gave me beer, if you gave me a girl. It didn't matter what you were giving me. I
Right.
was going to play because I love music. And it sounds like you had a similar thing, this overzealous passion for art
Yeah.
where
Yep.
you were willing to put in the hours that maybe looking back weren't so wise putting in.
Yeah.
And I think it's so crucial for artists to understand the value of their talents. We
Right.
fall into this trap at least with musicians. I can only speak for myself. It's very deceiving, and um owners and managers and people who are trying to hire you will often use this as a form of manipulation in my experience,
Uh-huh.
where they'll
Yep.
they'll try to say, oh, well, you should just love playing music. Why does the
Yeah.
money matter, right?
Yeah.
What's
Where's
going
like
on here?
yeah, where's your passion? Why aren't you doing this more and more? Yeah.
And
It's
exactly, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to
oh
stress real
yeah.
quick that I truly I think all artists need to sit back and realize, if you're anything like you or myself who have gone through university to
Mm-hmm.
reach the highest levels of our art, that's a lot of time and money that you deserve to pay back. So please don't get manipulated on that end. And I'm curious with
Oh,
you,
definitely.
what clicked where you finally went, you know what, enough is enough. I've worked an 8 hour day, time to eat.
Darn it. Um, Usually I think it's just kind of like looking around everywhere else and it's like dark and like, oh, what am I doing here still? I should go get some food. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm getting a little hungry. Or just luckily the coworkers that I had were very nice coworkers and they really kind of showed me the ropes of the visual effects industry. And they would be talking to me and saying, this is okay for your first job or, for early in your career, but you don't want to be doing this for the rest of your life. And you want to kind of be more efficient during the day and kind of hit the notes as fast as you can, but don't kill yourself over it, and really just take care of yourself a lot more. That was what I took away, and it was great that the coworkers that I had in my early careers were really helpful. I am always thankful to them about that. So
So would you say that after this change in work ethic happened when would you say the quality of your work has increased since then?
yeah, it definitely has, especially going into Blizzard. I was not the top of my game yet, but I was good enough that I got into Blizzard, and what they were doing there is just amazing too. And you're constantly learning, going from one studio to another to Blizzard in the end. And even now, like I think I could do a lot better too. There are times where like I see some new software out there. I'm like, oh shoot, I really want to learn that and increase my workflow efficiency, or like have a tool that makes something way better than what I'm doing right now, or a lot easier to do. And or there's like some other. new generation coming out, and the new kids in the generation these days, they have access to a lot of new tools and new techniques that I didn't get to learn. And I'm like, wow, they did a lot better. I should try to do that someday. But it's
Ah.
hard to get the time to put yourself aside and um, learn all the new stuff, especially working after like an 8 hour day or something. Um, but yeah, no,
Gotcha.
there's always room to grow. I think there's always room to learn. So
I love that attitude, and I want to focus on something you just mentioned. You brought up, the new generation and things you actually look up to them with, and
yes,
I
yeah.
love that because I had a time in my life where right when I was learning drums, YouTube's getting big, and I'm going to YouTube, and
Hmm.
this guy does 3,000 double strokes in 30 seconds, and I'm going, what the fuck? How am
What the?
I'm sorry to swear, I don't,
That's crazy. No,
we
it's
do
good.
whatever we want here, so you feel free to
Right.
swear yourself, but so I'm going, how the hell am I supposed to compete with this? And just
Yeah.
very depressed, competitive.
Oh, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And
Yeah.
I had an amazing teacher who once told me, listen, when you see someone better than you in anything in life, you have two ways you can react to it. You can A, look at it as a point where you'll never be that good, you're always going to be worse, and it's very depressing. Or you can do exactly what you just said and go, wow, I think I can do that one day. That's inspiring.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
definitely.
huge in the world of art. And is that an attitude you always had, or art is very competitive no matter what part of art
Oh, it
you're
definitely is.
ensuing, right? So
Yeah.
was that an attitude you always brought to art?
I think so. Like, especially going to school. I went to Academy of Art University up in San Francisco for 4 years, and just going up there, there were so many people that were like way better than me at the time. I'm like, whoa, how do they do this? Um, just I think putting in the practice really makes a difference, and just kind of observing nature, studying a lot, and seeing how the masters did it. Um, you really could put forth the effort and get better. I mean, there are times when like I also was like I could never be that good. I'm like, what? How long would this take?
Hmm.
But just kind of chipping away at it and working, one day to the next, I think really helps. Yeah, definitely. I think always I would want to learn something. I don't want to stop. So
Right. And I think it's really interesting how you said even when you're applying for Blizzard, you full out admitted, no, I'm not at the top of my game. There's some
yeah,
amazing
there's
players here. And
definitely.
I feel like the lesson maybe to listeners here is, you're probably never going to be at the top of your game. I've been drumming
Right.
for a long time now, and I suck compared to some people. And
Yeah, yeah. There's
that
always
doesn't
gonna be someone better than
exactly.
you or someone worse than you too. But yeah, I mean, there's always room to grow, I think, definitely.
Exactly, and I think what I'm trying to say here is that it doesn't matter really what level you're at, as long as I imagine still when you're applying to Blizzard, you had some level of confidence in your
Yeah,
abilities,
yeah.
clearly, right? And I know a lot of people who they're playing this waiting game. They're like, I really want to do this, but I need to get this much better first. They're
Yeah.
just constantly waiting and waiting and waiting and not doing anything. And I'm of the mindset where I think you kind of just got to do stuff and see where it takes you, and
Right.
be fully aware that yeah, like you said, I'm not the best I could be, but I can get better, and I'm good enough right now. I'm good enough
Yeah.
to do what I can do.
Yeah, I get that all the time actually. I teach matte painting online as well too. And I get a lot of students that come and talk to me. They're like, after the course is done, they're like, "Oh yeah, should I apply to this place yet? I don't know if I'm good enough." And I look at their work. I'm like, "Dude, you're good enough. Just apply. Don't worry about it. Just sometimes it's a lot of luck too, especially.
Right, no
Uh,
doubt.
there's like timing. Times when you just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I should just apply," and they happen to be hiring, and it's like, "Oh, there, bam, there you go." And they hire someone. And I think it's always good to continue improving yourself while you're applying to other jobs. So you never know when you get accepted somewhere. But at the same time, while you're waiting, you can always improve yourself that way too. So it's the confidence thing where like you should be at least confident enough to know that your work is needed elsewhere, that other people could use your work. But at the same time, you're always improving yourself as well to get to the next level.
Gotcha. And with these students that you see that you believe they have the expertise required to work for whatever company, I'm
Yeah.
wondering beyond their art just being plain good, is there a common denominator in the kind of mindset they possess?
Um, You mean as far as getting hired, or the students that are asking me?
I'm the ones that you believe could be hired. Do they have any
Okay.
common, ambitions or?
Yeah, I think a lot of them. that can be hired, those are the ones that always reach out to me or reach out to other professionals and ask them, "Hey, what do you think of my work? I'm always looking for critiques or feedback. Can you take a look at my work and see what you think?" Those are the kinds of people that I think get ahead in life more because they're not afraid to put the work out there and not afraid to get the critiques to improve. There are a lot of people who just kind of stay in their own hole and don't show anyone their work, and sometimes they veer off a path that doesn't really jive with what the industry standard
Right.
needs. And so finally, like after a year or two of working on their own, they show their work, and people are like, "Whoa, that's definitely not what we're looking for these days." So
Hmm.
I think always reaching out to those you admire and to other professionals to get feedback is just the best way to go. And those are the kind of people I think that are ones that are more prone to getting a job these days.
I couldn't agree more. And just to expand on that even a bit, obviously the mentorship that you're talking about, where you
Right.
find someone who's amazing and you admire and that they're willing to help you, that is
Oh
so
yeah.
key to any kind of success. But what I'm also seeing in what you're saying is this willingness to let yourself be open to critique and be vulnerable to.
Oh yes. You have to definitely be vulnerable. Yeah.
Exactly, and just put yourself on the line. And I had a friend. There was a long time ago. There was a girl I had a crush on, and
Hmm.
I was playing that same waiting game. Like
Oh right.
just wait. Like the perfect moment's gonna happen, and I'm gonna go for it. And then I would always be scared or whatever, blah blah blah. And he told me, I don't know where he got this from, but it still sticks to me to the day. He goes, "Listen, there's no glory without fear." And his point was, if you're not going to make yourself just a little bit vulnerable, you're not going to get anything out of it. And
Right.
it's amazing how that seems to apply not just to art, but life in general.
That does. That's a really good analogy, and it's kind of the glory without any of that pain. So it's a risk versus reward thing, and if you're not willing to risk anything, then you're not really going to get anything back in return. A lot of people just kind of think that they're entitled and things will just fall in their lap, but they really have to go after it and put themselves out there, I think.
Right. And I'm going to just to clarify for the listeners, I got rejected with that girl. So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
like
Ah, yeah.
it's not
At
like
least you tried, though.
exactly. It's not like
Yeah.
the glory even came, right? There was just
Right.
fear in that case. But I firmly believe that was, as stupid as it sounds, that was such a big change in mindset for me, where I realized the importance of just putting myself out there and trying
Right.
things. So I'm wondering with you, David, is there any moments that come to mind where you just outright blew it like I did, where you just got rejected for whatever reason?
Yeah, so what happened was after I graduated from college, I applied to, I think, nearly 40 or 50 studios around the world.
Wow.
A lot of studios, yeah. So I was like, I didn't care where I would work. It would have been like some other country. Could have been like Singapore or like New Zealand, Australia, London, Vancouver. I really didn't care where I wanted to work.
Right.
And I got so many rejection letters. There were a lot of people looking for certain things, looking for, oh, you have to be at least, a senior, or you need at least 2 years experience, even though it's a junior position. And I'm like, what? How does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of the places where like, oh, they want you to be working certain amounts of time already, and so that cut my hearts down a lot. But I kept applying and applying, and finally, Luma Pictures they called me back and got me an interview from there. So I mean, I went through a lot of rejections, and so just getting that one acceptance somewhere is just really worth it.
Exactly. It's that same risk reward as you just said. And so I want
Yeah.
to take you back to before the jobs.
Hmm.
You're pursuing a BFA in school, and if your experience was anything like mine was when I decided I'd like to pursue a BFA, and just so there's some perspective here, I actually had received my BA before I ever decided to
Oh,
pursue a
okay.
BFA, so I was
Oh,
coming to school a second time,
yeah.
and I'm wondering, was your experience anything like mine, where everyone kind of looked at you and went, "Why? Why are you doing this? Like,
Why are you
what's the
doing this?
point?"
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I graduated high school in 1999, but I actually didn't graduate college until 2005, and the reason for that was I went to a local university at my city called UCR, and I went there coming in as a bio major, really,
Ah,
because my parents and my sisters and my brothers ahead of me, they were pretty successful in the bio major and went on to be dentists. And my parents really, think that's really secure, and they love the kind of, I guess, the honor of being a dentist, whatever.
right.
but they wanted me to be like a doctor even or like even a lawyer. It's kind of the whole typical kind of
Yep.
Asian
Yep.
thing. So um, they put me on this path of being a biology major in hopes of getting one of those career paths. And so um, I went through first 2 years of college really doing that, but it wasn't where my heart was. And also, I actually I'm a musician as well. Growing up,
Oh,
I
cool.
played the piano, yeah, for 6 years, classically trained. Um, and I went through college, high school, playing the piano. And so I also minored in piano and music theory in college.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, and it was really cool, but except it was really hard too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So writing counterpoint and harmony was just crazy. I'm like,
Oh
oh
man.
my God, this is hard.
Yep.
And the teacher at the time was like, this is probably one of the hardest classes you'll ever take. So counterpoint is like harder than calculus, harder than like this bio class you'll ever take in college. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see how it is. And he was right. It was really hard.
Wow.
It's just combining your left and right brain at the same time and designing a piece that sounds good technically and aesthetically. So going to the class, I'm like, ooh, I don't think I can do this, as a career path. So I got really lost. I'm like, I don't have my bio major or my music anymore. So I'm like, what am I doing? Um, so I kind of looked into my heart, and I knew that I loved video games. I loved playing, and I loved movies. And so I looked all over the U.S. trying to figure out what or where I should go. And I found Academy of Art University up in San Francisco, and luckily they accepted me. And then, yeah, just pursued my path of being a visual effects artist, and that worked out, luckily.
That's incredible to me, and I'm wondering. So you said it as, I looked into my heart, and that's one of those things where people going, well, I know there's a lot of listeners who are going, well, I don't know how to do that. How do I look into my heart? Do you have any advice for people like that?
It's really just finding out what you really love, your passion, what really motivates you to kind of, I'd say, like get up every morning, and what are you looking forward to, And at the same time, for me, it was really that the escapist feeling of playing video games, and also the same feeling that I would get when I watch a movie. All those things really affect me emotionally, and they really kind of really got me through a lot of hard times through life, and got through my childhood just watching movies and playing video games. And I think it's something that you really want to work to strive to do, that you could do for the rest of your life. And that's basically the thing that looking into heart is kind of doing, reflecting upon what you think makes you most happy, I think.
Gotcha. And I think another important thing that stands out to me here is it seems to be a common denominator with all the guests on the podcast is that finding their passion or looking into their heart, as you put it, it
Yeah.
seems to come after they've tried a gazillion different things first
Oh,
that
yeah.
didn't work out.
Yeah.
It never seems to be I was just born wanting to design cinematics in a video game. They never come out of the
Yeah.
womb thinking that. It's always like I tried music first and then I tried playing hockey and I wasn't that good at either one and I didn't like them that much and boom, this kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, that's definitely growing up, the whole experience of getting to try a lot of things. I think that's what a lot of kids should do these days. I mean, a lot of them don't know what they want to do unless they actually try it. And so I hope schools these days really teach kids to try everything at first and even fail. I mean, just trying and failing and knowing what you won't like after you fail is part of the process, I think, to know what you love. And for me, it was a lot of things too. It wasn't just um, I knew that I always wanted to, that I loved drawing at the beginning. I drew like when I was in elementary school and high school, junior high, um, and I was decent at it, but I didn't know exactly that I was going to be doing and being an artist, when I grew up.
Right.
Uh, but I also went into journalism in high school. I did graphic design. I did website design. I learned Photoshop in high school, all self-taught, and all these little things led up to the point for to get to where I am today. And yeah, it's just really just the trial and error that you go through in life before you could find what you really love to do.
Exactly. And one of the reason I wanted to bring guests like yourself on this show is and I mean this in all the compliments, or sorry, I'm not trying to say this is a negative thing at all. This is exactly why I want to bring on the show. It's that you are an artist who, a 6-year-old kid may not know who David Luong is, but
Right.
you make a living doing what you love, and there seems to be a misconception amongst art majors in general that they go, if
Mhm.
you're not famous, you're not doing anything. And one of
Right.
the saddest things in the world for me is, when I'm at school and I see these kids graduating with their BFAs, and this look of despair on their face, like, what have I just done for the last
Oh
4 years?
man.
Where am I going to go? And I
Yeah.
think it's so important to highlight people like yourself who have a passion for art and have made a lifestyle out of it without being
Right.
famous. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we have about 1,500 people working in the Irvine campus, a little bit more than that, but about 1,500 people. And in the cinematics department, we have about 250 people. I would say really like 85 or more percent of those people, all they do is just work at Blizzard, and that's all they do. They love doing it, and they're not out to be famous. They're not out to get fame or anything. It's really just doing what they love. And so there's the other 15% that you'll see on social media, getting a little more famous from doing certain interviews like the
Right.
podcast here, like this. Um, but a lot of them, that doesn't matter to them. It really doesn't. They don't really care. It's just loving what they do already. And so to them, I think that's fulfilling enough. And it's great that there are a lot of people out there that don't really care for the fame as well too. And I admire them as well too. It's just great that there's so many different kinds of people um, that kind of see fame as something that they don't really need. But at the same time, there are people like me, like I don't really use the fame for myself, but it's really getting to inspire other people for the next generation to hopefully pursue what they want to do or what they love to do in life.
I love that, man. And what it reminds me of is a quote in a book I read. You might have heard of it. It's called Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a book by Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. And one
Oh.
of the quotes that stood out for me, and I've been using every day since I've read it, is he said something like, I'm going to butcher it here, but it was something like, if you make success or fame, just if you make success your target, if
Mhm.
that's what you're aiming for consistently, he claims that you're more likely to miss it, and he instead offers a point of view where he suggests that success is something that shouldn't be pursued necessarily, and instead seen as something that can be ensued. So
Mm,
instead, he says, aim for the thing, like you said, that it's in your heart, that's your passion, and he believes that your odds of success ensue much more likely if that becomes your aim, rather than the money, rather than the growth,
right.
rather than all that. Aim for
Yeah,
the thing
yeah.
that's just going to make you happy, and those might become a side effect.
Yeah. No, that's a great paraphrase of that too. That's really cool. And I totally believe that. So,
Yeah, it's so amazing. One of the greatest parts of this podcast for me is, like I said, so I've had mixed martial arts champions, I've had men's fashion
yeah.
experts, I have artists like yourself, and what I'm trying to prove with this podcast is that we all think similarly. And when I
Ah,
say
yeah.
we, for me, the we of this podcast is people who I personally see as successful. So,
Hmm.
and that's my own criteria, and it's been amazing for me just reinforcing these ideas, and I'm getting fan mail, people saying like just how enlightening this common denominator in
Yeah.
mindset is for people, and it's something that's just not taught in school. When I went to school, I'm from Toronto.
Okay.
I was consistently told, just like your parents told you, get the job that's going to make you money. That's it.
Yeah, that's
That's
what they
it.
think is successful, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And money is damn well important. No one
Hmm.
can deny that. But again, when I started seeing that as, this is a side effect, the money started to flow my way. I stopped worrying about it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's true. I mean, like, you really should just pursue what you really love and get really good at it. And once you get really
Hmm.
good at it, other people will see that and they'll pay for your services for that. And it's really kind of a side effect, as you said, the success being second and really just doing what you love first.
Exactly. And I don't want to sugarcoat this at all. And David, I'm sure you can speak for yourself here.
Uh-huh.
Doing what you love is not all fun and games. There is a
No,
hell of a grind involved.
definitely not. There's a lot of times when you really have to, you know, work your ass off, really.
Exactly.
Um, I mean, the grinding of overtime gets really hard sometimes. There are times when you really have to put in the hours you need to get a shot done to make something look good. And it sometimes takes a lot of hours. There is a toll sometimes. In our industry, especially visual effects and gaming, some people can work overtime so much that they don't see their families a lot. They don't see their loved ones, and that can be hard, especially when you're doing something you love. you should also be like taking care of the other things in your life, like your
Right.
relationships or your family as well. Um, but luckily at Blizzard, they really improved upon that. When I just started at Blizzard, we worked on, let's see, it was StarCraft 2. That was the first cinematic I worked on. And I don't know, I did like a couple of overnighters, and those are not fun at all.
Mm,
It's really a diminishing returns when you work overnight. You start kind of getting delirious and start
right.
making a lot of mistakes, and you're like, "What am I doing? I should go home and sleep." But then, like, no, I got to finish this, and my supervisor's looking at me, so I can't go home yet.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that happened, but it got a lot better at Blizzard. They really knew that people need quality of life, and so it improved dramatically in the next few years. And we really didn't do that a lot anymore after some of those crazy cinematics. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you have to put into to get to where you can say quote unquote successful.
Right.
Um, the other thing is also sometimes after hours, like what I'm doing right now, I also own an art gallery at my place here too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I put together an art show every month, and that's all on the side with my husband here. We both work together, and we put together shows every month featuring digital artists from Blizzard mostly, but also from LA, and just giving them a venue to show their digital art in a traditional form, in a physical form.
That's great. And it's just again, it's just trying different things and seeing
Yeah,
where it takes you.
yeah, definitely. And so the thing about that is we aren't even paying ourselves. I mean, if we would be paying ourselves, it would cost thousands of dollars. But we're doing this out of the love of our own heart of just loving art and getting it out to the community and getting other people to see the art and inspiring them in the process. And so, yeah, we put together shows as cheaply as possible. I mean, as cost effectively as possible, not really
Right,
cheaply,
right.
but the quality standard that we're looking for as best as possible. And yeah, it's costing a lot of money, but it's worth it in our hearts, I think. So
I love that, man. I have nothing but respect for that kind of attitude, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm certainly going to. I don't know
yeah,
if you do you post these things online?
I do. I have it on photonicplayground.com. That's our website, and also Facebook, Photonic Playground on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look for us. You'll see us there. And if you're ever around in California, let me know too. We can hang out down
Oh, I
here.
would love that, man. I
Yeah.
have an uncle down in Silicon Valley. I'm not sure how
Oh,
far that
okay.
is from you, but
Oh, yeah. That's about a 7 hour drive, or a 1 hour plane ride. So that
well,
can be
I'll
quick.
have to take you up on that offer
Yeah.
sometimes, man. Thank you.
That'd be,
I do want to shift this interview back to video games for a second,
uh-huh.
video games and art specifically. And I'm wondering, so there's a saying, never meet your heroes, and you
Ah,
met them, and
I got to
clearly,
meet them. Yeah.
exactly, and that saying didn't seem to hold true in that sense. But I'm wondering, so you're going from this. If you're anything like I was, I was doing, you were playing StarCraft, but I was playing Diablo 1 probably 7 hours a day
Oh,
at one
wow.
point,
Okay.
right? I was going
Wow.
crazy. I guess you
Nice.
weren't that bad, but
No, but I did do an overnight playing of Diablo the first time I played it, and I got to the butcher level, and I killed him, and I was like, oh my god, this game's amazing. But for some reason, I never got back into it afterwards.
gotcha. I guess I was thinking about your LAN StarCraft games. I imagine you had
Yeah.
some competitive long matches
Oh,
also,
definitely.
right?
Yeah.
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 And I'm wondering then, as you join Blizzard, do you still have that same passion for their games, for actually playing their games?
I do. So every game that gets released, I play it like crazy. Currently, right now, it's Heroes of the Storm, and I just love
Ah,
that game to death. Yeah, it's a really good MOBA game. And again, going back to Warcraft 3, that's when I played a lot of Blizzard games too. There was a Dota custom mod,
yep.
and I play that all the time with my friends in LANs and through modem and just BattleNet. So finally getting to play a version of that officially with Blizzard is just awesome. And it's kind of combining all the heroes and all the champions and villains of
Oh
all the
man.
Blizzard games,
Yeah.
and you get to play them yourself. So, like Jaina, Diablo, you can play Raynar, Tassadar, all these heroes that you loved all these years. You get to play as them. So that's kind of cool, I think.
Oh, it is. I remember when it came out, I'm like, this feels like Super Smash Brothers Blizzard. That's what it
Yes.
felt like to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I love Smash Brothers too.
Yeah.
That's a super fun console game. So it really is. It's kind of like an all stars thing for us. And so that was actually the first name for Here's the Storm. We called it All Stars at first, Blizzard
Ah,
All
okay.
Stars. Yeah, and it's kind of based off of Smash Brothers. So I think.
I think
Um,
Sony stole that name. Didn't they have Sony All Stars that came out, I don't know, a
oh,
couple years ago, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah. So there've been other clones. There've been League of Legends. There's Dota 2 even.
Right.
So we had to fight for the name Defense of the Ancients, Dota.
Oh,
And
I've heard of this, yes.
yeah, we actually gave it to them. We didn't want to go, too much into it. But it's more about the game itself than the name. So we made our own name, and so we let them have that one. So it's really a really fun genre, I think, compared to the other games out there currently.
Oh, I would agree. I'm gonna preface this by saying in the Warcraft 3 games, I
Hmm.
was the guy clicking the custom game menu, seeing Dota, and going, "Ah, I hate these games so much. I hate these, taking up the whole. Where's my
Oh
RPGs?
yeah,
Where's my Dragon Ball Z
there's so
RPG?"
many of them. Oh yeah.
You know, I'm
I
like, I
know.
hated that. I was climbing the Warcraft 3 ladder, and my friends would be
Oh
on
wow.
playing Dota. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Uh-huh.
What are you guys doing? This is not the real game here.
I
And
know. Yeah, you're like hit refresh on the bottom of that screen, and it's like more Dota on
yeah.
top. Oh, there's a new one that just got created, like 20 of them.
Exactly. And what blew me away with Heroes of the Storm is so I'm this very prejudiced person to all MOBA style games until Heroes of the Storm come out and I give it a shot because I'm like I said, this is Super Smash Bros. Blizzard and I love Blizzard
Uh-huh.
game. And you guys I know you weren't directly part of the gameplay community,
Right.
but you guys did something amazing there. Even with I'm wondering, were you part of the cinematics and the tutorials?
I did. I did the cinematics, not the tutorials, but I did the cinematic, the opening cinematic.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so cool, man.
yeah,
You
going
did
through
an
the dust
amazing
storm.
job. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I got to work on that, and I did a lot of the Diablo versus Raynar fights. And I did the opening shot where the Blizzard logo kind of goes through the sandstorm, and you see Raynar coming through that.
What
So
was that like going, I have to make James Raynor face Diablo? What goes
I
through your head doing
know. Oh my
there?
God. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm combining these gigantic, franchises into one game, and it is really fun. I mean, it's funny also too because the Diablo that you see in the cinematic is not really in the Heroes of the Storm team. It's
Ah,
the male version is in the game, but in the cinematic, it's the girl version, which is odd.
oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I
So
didn't catch that.
yeah, they'll have to come, fix that someday or make a custom skin. They have a lot of skins out there. But
Yeah,
it was really a great honor just working on that cinematic and getting to combine all these heroes that you've played all the time. So it
right.
was really fun.
I gotta ask you. So right now, my number one Blizzard game, and it's World of Warcraft, and it hasn't
Okay.
always been like that. I played.
Oh,
I was part of you guys. Well, you weren't part of Blizzard at this point, actually, because this is
oh,
2004. I was in the beta,
oh,
and
okay. Actually, yeah, I was in the beta myself too.
oh no way. So
So
I'm curious. Did you get hooked as well?
I did. So at the time, I was in college and it was our finals. So this was dangerous.
Oh no.
So, being a huge fan of Blizzard already, I finished playing Warcraft like a million times,
Right.
and that was 2001 when it came out. And so, 3 years after, you're like, oh crap, they're making a new game, and it's an MMO. And I was a huge EverQuest nerd as well too. So,
Right.
EverCrack, that was the first MMO that reached the Americas, and I played that like crazy. And so, having Blizzard make its own MMO, I was really afraid. I'm like, oh, this might be really bad for my grades. So I got into the beta and I played it for a couple of weeks and I'm like, okay, this is really good, but I can't. I got to put it down and focus on my finals and then come back to it afterwards. And what happened was it went retail in November 2004.
Yep.
I got it immediately, got the box, and went home and played like crazy too. And I loved it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah, so luckily finals were over and I got to play it. And I've been playing it on and off ever since 2004. I've got a level 100 Warlock and 100 Priests that I play on both Horde and Alliance. So I play both.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love hearing that, I asked you earlier, I said, did you lose some passion? Clearly, no.
Oh,
That
yeah, it increases, yeah, each time.
I
So,
love that, man. It's just a testament to the great studio that Blizzard is. And
yeah.
so I'm wondering, I believe the first cinematic, I know you joined Blizzard in 2006, but from what I understand, the first cinematics you're working on in terms of World of Warcraft is Wrath of the Lich King stuff,
Wrath of the
right?
Lich King, yeah, and that was still one of my favorite cinematics that I got to work on. It was just because I put my soul and energy into that. I got to work on it from the beginning to the end. It was really a small team. It was me, my lead Shang Jin, and my director Jeff Chamberlain at the time, and all three of us. We really kind of explored a lot of options of what the cinematic should look like, the colors, the look of Arthas, what can be, how reflective his armor is, the look of the snow that he'll be around. And I got to touch every single frame of that cinematic, and it was really an honor, and it was just great and amazingly um, geeky and fun of me to finally get to work on a World of Warcraft cinematic. I was like, oh my god, this is the first one I got to work on, and so I really just put everything into that cinematic, and it was just a joy getting to work on that. One of my favorites still to this day.
Could I ask what some of your other favorite ones from World of Warcraft are?
Yeah, I think Mr. Pandaria. I love the tone and the comedy that we put into that. It was one of the first, I think, comedy pieces that we put into
Right.
our cinematics. It was the panda coming around and kind of tricking everyone and fooling everyone how strong he is from the mists and the shadows. And then later on, you could see the orc handing the spear to, or actually the human captain handing the spear to the orc, and they kind of combined forces to fight this common foe. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the details of. So, from what I understand, like we mentioned at the very beginning of of the podcast, is
Yeah.
you're essentially part of a team with these cinematics, and that
Uh,
it reminds me of being part of a band as a musician.
oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
one of the what's the word I'm looking for? One of the things I see constantly breaking up bands is creative differences and
Right.
judging those creative differences. So, for instance, I'm a drummer. I had to deal with many bands that wouldn't even look at me for advice because to me, you're a drummer. You know, like you don't know what you're talking about. You play the drums. Like, how can you possibly know what solo we should play here or what note we
Oh,
should hit,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, in your case with visual art, like you're dealing with, what's that like to have to juggle these different judgments as well? Because I'm guessing you maybe submit something to the director and he goes,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. Like what? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So the other big difference between Blizzard and other studios like Rhythm and Hues, who are like 700 people, we are actually our own client, and we're actually smaller, very smaller too. And so the thing that we could do is really just bounce off ideas off each other. Even though he is the art director or he is the director, your opinion matters as well. So he's going to ask you, "Hey, so what do you think of this? This change?" And you get to give your opinion. And let's say you really like it, and he's like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of cool." Or let's say you put in a change to a shot, you show him, and he kind of asks you why you did it. You defend yourself, and you kind of prove to him that this is actually a good change to put into the cinematic, and it'll actually be better overall. That can affect the final outcome, and you can inject your own creativity through that as well. So it's really anyone in the room has a voice. I mean, from the producer to a technical artist to an artist to a programmer to the director, anyone can put out their opinion out there, and it can be a little bit hard sometimes. Again, being the risk versus reward, you have to be
Right.
vulnerable to kind of show yourself and say what you think. But in the end, it could be worth it because you're actually changing the cinematic just a little bit to be kind of more like what you think. So that's kind of cool. Um, yeah, even though they are directors and they're art directors, they have an overall vision. You kind of you still follow that path, but you still kind of put a little bit of yourself and your soul into each of the decisions that you make, and hopefully they like it too.
Gotcha. And I'm wondering then, just with this voice that each artist on the team has, do you think
Yeah.
that there is a yearning, a common yearning between all the artists that one day they would like to direct their own piece and have their own say? Maybe not, you claim, you say that everyone has a veto or a chance in these kind of things, but I
Yeah.
think um, if someone had to draw the line, eventually there's a hierarchy, right?
There's a hierarchy, yes. So that would be again your supervisor or the lead or the art director. But yeah, I guess even though that there is a hierarchy, you shouldn't have to be afraid to voice your own opinion. I think, and kind of show what you think is right too.
And
So
is this something that it took you a lot of time to deal with? Like, being able to say, I disagree with you and I think this will look better. Is this something that you could do right off the bat, or did this take time?
I think it took time, and I wasn't always like that. I mean, getting into the visual arts industry, it's really, or any art industry at all, it can be very cutthroat sometimes. I mean, it's a lot of people who are either giving you critiques and being constructive, or they're just like raw mean critiques, you know. So I guess I kind of built a harder skin over the years, and luckily I was confident enough and being skilled enough to kind of show other people what I think is, in my opinion, a better choice for certain things. And yeah.
Gotcha. And is there a specific moment that comes to mind where you finally went, my ideas are good. I'm going to share them with you. Does anything come to mind there?
There have been a few instances, I think. Let's go back to Wrath of the Lich King.
Sure.
So I got to do a lot of um, I guess, the kind of look development for Arthas, and I would paint Arthas's hair in certain ways, or his cape to flow different ways, uh, have his armor look a certain way, and I knew in my mind which one I liked already, and I would show the director or the art director like different versions of it. He would take that, and he's like, I kind of like this version the most. What do you think? And then I would kind of say, oh, I like this version because this and this and this. And he's like, oh, okay, that's right. That's kind of cool. Let's go with that version. And so having that happen, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Like I got to change something about World of Warcraft cinematic. Um, yeah, it's just those little things that I think I got to do in Wrath of the Lich King, especially. That was really special to me. Um, I think nowadays our company did get a little bit bigger, and we lost just a little bit of that. I think creative input, but it's still there. But I think back in the day, I think I had a little bit more fun getting be able to do that.
And do you maybe wish is the wrong word, but do you want Blizzard to revert to those older days in a sense where this creative input was more powerful, perhaps?
I think in a sense, but also at the same time, we wouldn't be able to do the quality and the amount of work that we're needing to do right now because we have a lot of things on our plate, a lot of games that need cinematics. So it's kind of hard. It's a hard decision, I think. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, to figure.
And I'm curious then, so with the cinematic team in mind, is it something like today or this year you're assigned to World of Warcraft, this year you're assigned to
Right.
Hearthstone, or is it you guys are doing it all whenever they need it?
Yeah, so usually it's we do it all whenever they need it, and it
Um,
comes down to like Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Diablo, Overwatch coming out, World of Warcraft, all these games, StarCraft. Um, it's pretty much if you're free, then you could jump on this franchise to work on.
gotcha.
Um, but there are times when there are two cinematics working simultaneously, and you have to choose. So that's always the hard decision. I had to choose Mists of Pandaria over StarCraft II's Heart of the Swarm cinematic,
Uh,
and so they were both awesome to work on. But I love Warcraft more, so I went with World of Warcraft.
gotcha.
um, so yeah, but as long as you are available, then yes, you should be able to work on every cinematic if possible. Yeah.
Cool. We're coming close to the end here. I'm wondering, do you have any general, broad, specific, whatever you want to call it, advice for upcoming artists? For let's even talk about, as we said before, kids in the middle of pursuing their BFA and
Yeah.
they know these are ones who they know that passion's in their heart. Maybe the money's not here right now and things are hard. What kind of advice would you have for someone like that?
I would definitely go on all the forums online. There's so much information out there on the internet right now, and there's a lot of resources out there that can be taken and really absorbed and be improved upon. So if you go on websites like cgtalk.com, there's a huge forum in there for all kinds of software, all kinds of disciplines in the visual effects industry. Just kind of go in there and ask how your work is doing or how to do things. Again, putting yourself out there and getting the risk versus reward thing. Just don't be afraid to ask questions and just take the feedback. Sometimes it's good, not all of it's good as well too. Some of it's kind of bad or mean, but take what you can and run with it and be better. There's other websites like ArtStation or like Behance.net from Adobe. These websites are just great. They have an amazing community. They have lots of art on there. You can get inspired like everywhere you go. Just just awesome. Um, a lot of interviews go on there as well too, and there's a lot of people that you look up towards. And don't be afraid to email them as well. Just asking them, for some advice later on, or just getting a quick critique of your work. They may be busy a lot of times, but there's always a moment where like I get a lot of emails from people out there who are aspiring artists, and sometimes I don't get to them, right away,
Right.
but I get to them like the next day or a few days later, and I apologize profusely. But yeah, I mean, you can get pretty busy as a production artist, but I always love seeing those, and I'm always grateful that when I emailed my the people that I looked up to, they got back to me. So I'm like, I gotta get back to everyone that emails me too. So it's kind of like a chain reaction. It's a pay it forward thing.
Right. And
Just
sorry to interrupt. I
oh no,
go
go ahead.
on, go on. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So it's basically just really always learn what you can and put your work out there and really get in contact with the professionals that you look up to, I think.
Awesome. And all I was going to say there is I couldn't agree more of everything you're saying. And again, I want to reinforce just how amazing it is for me to see that all these people from different disciplines seem to be sharing similar, approaches, mindsets,
Uh,
strategies, all that. It's so powerful for me to see, man. And I love your attitude and I
oh,
love
thank you.
your work, David. To finish this off, I want to ask you, where could people go if they want to find out more about you?
Go to my website at davidluong.net. I'm also on Facebook. You can always add me on there, facebook.com/acto, spelled ACKDOH. I'm also on Twitter at acto and Instagram as well. So if you go to my website, it'll have all those social networks all in one place, so you don't have to search for it. So yeah, definitely davidluong.net, and it'll link to my Photonic Playground gallery as well if you want to check out some of the amazing artists that I've featured over the past year.
Awesome. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I will get to see some of your work in Warcraft Legion coming out soon.
Oh yeah, that's what we're working on right now, actually.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait, man. Thank
Yeah.
you again so much for being here, David.
Thank you for the interview as well. Thanks, Jared.
Awesome. You have a good one, man, and take it easy.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye. That's it for today's episode. If you guys like what you heard, follow us on Twitter at _thekspot.net, search for The Knowledge Spot on Facebook or SoundCloud, or check us out at www.thekspot.net. Lastly, if you guys have any questions for me, I plan on doing my own personal Q&A sessions through YouTube, so email me at contact@thekspot.net.